Hello DevOps people, how are things? It's me, Jochen. I'm back with another live coding stream and I'm happy to have you with me. I hope you're doing well and as always, please feel free to participate in the chat. I'm always happy about any conversation we can have. If it's questions about the things I'm doing, if it's because you don't understand a single word I'm saying, if it's because you'd like to suggest something, it's all very welcome. And please make sure to let me know if there's anything I can do to improve my stream and to increase its value for you. All right, another week. And I'd like to start with the first point on my agenda for today, which is follow up on my last session. I don't know if you were on the stream or if you've watched the recording, which is on YouTube. And I hope it's linked on my channel page. I think it is. And you saw me struggling a bit with building tests for a command line application we have started to build. Building bigger Ruby application is still somewhat new for me and my teammates, and while I have a bit of experience in building tests for web applications, namely Ruby on Rails applications, I'm still struggling a bit with defining what exactly to test in a command line application. And when I ended the stream last week, didn't uh, I didn't have anything particularly interesting, but I spent another half hour or so, and I actually found a few things that make sense in terms of testing, and I'd simply like to show it to you. So I found that there are two types of tests that really make sense, and two approaches to testing. First of all, the common unit test. So, for example, I have this edge router model, a class that does something with information about our edge routers, whatever that is. It's not particularly important in this context. So it's a plain old Ruby class, a plain old Ruby object. And so it does make sense to simply instantiate one of these classes, which I do in this line here, and then run a few assertions on this. So our business logic dictates if an edge router has an ID that starts with a cluster ID, C, and a number, followed up with a hyphen and some kind of ordinal number, it belongs to the cluster that is symbolized by this ID. So this assertion belongs to cluster C1 should be true, and the next assertion belongs to cluster C2 should be false. That's pretty easy and makes perfect sense. It also doesn't test the implementation. It really tests the behavior of this class. So that's a bit trivial, but it's definitely useful. The other thing I found a bit more of a challenge was testing interfaces to the outside. For example, this command line application is supposed to talk to our Chef server, which has all the information about our hosting infrastructure, and it is supposed to read files from a Git repository that every one of us in our team has checked out. And I found a way to test this as well. I haven't gone as far as testing the API calls to Chef, but I found a way to test the file parsing. And that's the tests I built last Thursday after the stream. So what I do is I want to test the data bag class that we use to access data bag files. That's a Chef file format. It's basically JSON, and we are reading these JSON files from a specific directory. So I instantiate the data bag object here, and I simply give it an ID foo, which defines which subdirectory will be read. And I am skipping these things here. I'll get back to that in a second. Then I tell this data bag object to load an item from a file, and the file ID is bar. So as the data bag ID up here defines the directory this will read from, this item ID defines the file name that we'll read from. And if that works, we should expect that this item is a data bag item. So this method here, load item from file, should return a data bag item object whose ID should be bar, because that's what we requested here. And it should have a certain payload, in this case a JSON field named purpose, and its value should be test. I can expect this because the file I'm loading is actually included in my test data here. I've added a directory, fixtures files, where I can store test data bags and data bag items. So you can see here is a subdirectory named foo, and it contains a file named bar.json, and it has a field ID, which all Chef data bag items need to have, and here's the custom field purpose, and it has the value test. So if I can get my data bag class to read from my test directory, we are all good. And that's exactly what I do with this mock up here. In order to be able to manipulate the path from which we are reading our files, I introduced a method named Chef repo path, which is in the class definition of data bag. And normally Chef repo path gets its value from an environment variable. Since I don't want to manipulate environment variables during a test, because that seems pretty brittle, to say the least, I'm simply overriding this method for the test. So I say allow databag, my new databag object, to receive the message chef repo path, and in Ruby receiving a message means calling a method, and I manipulate this method because I force it to return the path of my test files, spec fixtures files. And by doing this, I can be sure that load item from file will actually read from this path. And since I'm accessing the databag bar, the subdirectory bar, and the file with the ID, the databag with the name foo, so it accesses the subdirectory foo, and the file with the ID bar, which is bar.json in the end, I can expect that I get a databag item that has an ID of bar. Otherwise, the file would be broken, I guess. And it should have a custom field named purpose with the value test. That way, we again don't test implementation, but behavior. And when I run my tests, it starts with Ruby style tests, and then it runs the RSpec tests, loads a databag item from a file, and the test is green, so all my expectations are met. And here down below, we are testing the edge router model with these two simpler expectations, and it actually recognizes its cluster. It knows that it belongs to C1 and not to C2. That way we have both a unit test and what is more of an integration test working, and I'm pretty happy because it feels like we can build up from here. Again, if you have any questions, if you'd like me to explain something a bit more, just let me know. This is supposed to be informational. All right then. So I guess we can check off the first item here. And now for something a bit even more interesting and more DevOpsy, with emphasis on ops. I'd like to finish my work on our new DNS cookbook. On multiple sessions on this stream, I had been working on two of our Chef cookbooks that set up DNS. First, I started with the NSDX cookbook, which provides basic DNS setup and configuration components. And then I built a specific cookbook to set up the DNS for our managed hosting platform, FreeSteelBox. And that's why the cookbook is named DNS_FreeSteel. Or is it FreeSteelBox DNS? I'm getting confused. Anyway, we'll see. And what I'd like to do now, today is to put these two cookbooks in action. I have I got a machine, a server that I will use for testing these cookbooks. And we'll see how they behave, and we'll have an actual DNS server that we can query and see if it provides all the information that our old legacy DNS server provides, because both of these servers will use the same basic data, and so the DNS records should be identical if I didn't miss anything in my cookbooks. All right. Hey Theodora, nice to have you here. Welcome to the stream. I hope you'll enjoy. How you doing? Now I need to find out which server I should use, and I'll look this up off screen if you excuse me for a minute. Okay, it's actually a container on my development server here. So I should be able to access it directly. Let's see, I should have a session for my chef cookbooks. And we are already in Box DNS, that's the name of the cookbook. And we are on the master branch. Let's see. I think there is a branch that still needs to be merged, connected to our issue number 173. Yep, there has been a bug fix that I did in an earlier session. Let me look up the pull request. Is there a pull request at all? That's the new DNS cookbook. I think there is no pull request regarding issue 173. We can simply look 173 up. Issues. One 173 has been merged. That's the problem with this piecemeal approach. You tend to forget what you already have done and what still needs to be done. So it looks like I should be able to go back to the master branch and delete branch 173. And if Git doesn't complain, yeah, it has been merged properly, which means my bug fix should be in there. Let's take a look just to be sure. That would be... Oh, the bug fix would be in the NSDX. No, it's in here. It should be here in the... Yeah, the bug was that I had typed IPv4 and actually for SPF records the syntax is IP4. Okay, so yeah, this should be good to launch. However, I'll have to... Well, let's take another look at the metadata file for the versioning. We are still at version 01.0. So I guess what I should do is assign it a proper first version and then upload it to our chef server. That's pretty easy because our chef repository has a script named bump and release, and I can simply say major and it'll increase the major version. So we'll jump from 0.0.1.0 to 1.0, and it'll already push everything to our Git repository. Hey Slayer. Chicken and rice coming right up. Okay, that actually looks good. Pretty relieved that everything is working. Gets tagged with a new version, and it has uploaded the cookbook to our chef server. Yeah, the more or less official title of this stream is actually Cooking with Jochen, so you could have ordered something much earlier. I'm happy to have you back. How are you doing today, Slayer? Found my first viable commercial project idea. Nice, nice. I hear the registering. Are you prepared to talk about it, or is it still a stealth project? Okie dokie. This is going much too smoothly. I'm always anxious that things that shouldn't break on the stream and take off half of my time. Online will planner. Interesting. Interesting. Sounds like lots of legalese. I'm not sure. But these things are getting definitely more viable, and there is a target audience for this. I'm pretty sure. Actually, I could use something like that. I have 2 kids, and I've never written a will, so yeah, let me know when your service is online. Okie dokie. What we can do now is use one of my spare. No, I'll close these shells just to avoid confusion. Oh, there's a shell over there that we could use. So the node I'm going to use is named ops06-6. So let's simply see node show minus, let's see the run list of this node, ops06-6.f7it.net. Nothing? Yeah, the run list is empty. I didn't get an error because okay, minus L is ambiguous, actually. Interesting. Let's take a look what node show actually has in. What can we do with node show? Environment. Yeah, let's take a look at the environment. It should be in the testing environment, I guess. Nope. I guess I'd better knife edit this. Okay. Due to Chef FS error files are deprecated, please require rather than. Ooh. That's strange. Yeah, of course. It's not knife edit, it's knife node edit. Here we go. Oh, it's actually in the production environment. Let's change that. And it actually has a run list here. It has our base role and the guest role on this server on its host ops06. I guess we'll simply add now recipe box DNS default. Saving updated chef environment and run list. Brilliant. Well, I was thinking of how best I can find living people who have not made a will. Yeah, as wills are by nature private affairs, so depending on your country, there may not be any public records. I'm thinking of finding retired people on LinkedIn and messaging them to see if they have a will. Sounds like a plan. Yeah, I definitely go that route because yeah, somehow you have to find your target to get to your target audience. Of course, there's always the avenue of things like Facebook ads targeting people who have touched certain topics, but yeah, I'm not. I don't have any experience with doing these things. It certainly depends on where people live, not only from a public register standpoint, but also from a cultural standpoint, because it might definitely depend on where people live, how they deal with the topic of themselves passing the bucket, kicking the bucket. Okay, now we should be able to log in to this machine. What? How can I be denied? My key should be on this machine. Let's take another look. Sorry for the small font, but I'll just use it to test it from my local machine here. That's strange. There's simply no author. Oh. There is my key for ops06. It's PDB1. Ha, look at that. It's a different key. Okay. Okay, no, not a problem. I'll simply close this shell and try and new tab with current profile, which makes more sense. Okay, here we go. I think that in the US, for example, they have a register of wills in each state. Yeah, I seem to remember something like that, that some of these things are pretty public. In the EU, I guess that will be much less common. I can't imagine that countries like Germany, for example, have something like that, because it's a very private matter. Idea is to sell account space to law firms who offer will writing as a service. Yeah, you could make that a multi-tenant application and allowing law firms to customize the look and feel and things like that. incorporating lead generation into my product, it should appeal to them more. Yeah, because it takes away a lot of this tedious effort that you'll have to have interns or assistants or things like that. Good. So let's see if our chef client on this machine is still running. It seems to run into problems here. Request return 4 or 4 not found. I guess that's because I actually uploaded the Fry Steelbox DNS cookbook. However, I might not have uploaded the NSDX base cookbook. Let's see. Run list expands to lots of stuff. Fry Steelbox DNS default, and then it returns 4 of 4 not found. And let's see if I run it manually. It should probably tell me that it doesn't find NSDX. First it's running lots of stuff here, and then I haven't started tmux, so let's do that now, which will make it easier for me to scroll. And as I can see from the status bar down there, it's actually the original configuration. Yeah. Let's have my dot files applied, and then I can run tmux with my own configuration. Yeah, that looks more like it, and now I can run a root shell and run chef client. So let's see. Option preference must be one of integer. You passed 10 as a string. Oh, interesting. So our existing databag items that have all the DNS zone data in them have the preference number for MX records as strings. However, in the NSDX record resource, I've defined this as an integer. Which I guess is actually correct. Let me see. DNS MX preference. Okay, I should have jumped to priority. Preference number. So it's actually a number. However, I don't want to have to change all our existing data. So what I should do is make a change to the DNS cookbook here. So let's create a new issue. Where's the DNS X preference? Has to be integer. I'll assign myself. This is a bug in firstbox underscore DNS. Now that's issue 228. Let's go and fix this. New branch to work on. Let's see. Oh, that's actually not a bug in the FreeStylebox DNS cookbook. It's actually in the NSDX cookbook. So I'll have to change this here. SDX. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'd like to relax this a bit. So where does here it uses element distance. So in these JSON files the field is called distance, not preference or priority. So we have 3 different words for the same thing. And I'll simply call to_i on this. So if it's already an integer, we're good. If it's a string, to_i should work as well. And if it's something else, the data bag item is broken and has been all the time, which is not very likely. Just to be sure, let's see how Ruby deals with this. So if I have something like 10 and I call to_i, I'll get the number 10. And if I have a number 10 and call to_i, I get a number 10 as well. So that should be the fix. Now I'll have to release this new version of this cookbook with a minimal change. However, there are a few things I need to do, especially change the changelog file. And since I might not know the version number yet, we can simply write head as a placeholder, and our bump and release script will replace it automatically with the new version. And then I can say fixed proper handling of string values for MX preference. That's that. Let's commit this. Fix handling of string values for MX preference. String values for the MX preference of MX records. Broke chef runs because an integer is expected. Strings get converted to integers automatically. Should have no side effects of this. Fixes number 228. And I'll check if our tests still run. So let's run kitchen test. Actually, I should be able to run rake test with Robocop and everything, since this is a new cookbook. Yeah, So it ran Robocop for Ruby style, then it ran Food Critic for Chef coding style, and now it's running kitchen test for the integration tests. Even though it's an absolutely tiny change, I think it's good practice to run tests again, because these small changes are easy to underestimate in their effects. Okay, now it's created the test container. Now it's running Chef inside the container, and if Chef exits successfully, it'll also execute the tests. And after that, we should be good to release it. I guess this will be one of my next topics, how to integrate our cookbook, how to run continuous integration on our cookbook repository, so it'll also automatically run all the tests that are necessary if I push something to the repository. Okay, tests run fine. So I go ahead and check out master and directly merge 228. And then I'll go and push it. And then I can go ahead and bump and release it as a patch version. This is a good opportunity to set up SSH agent. So, okay, so NSDX has been updated, and which means that our test machine here will use the new version automatically in the testing environment. This chef node is in, we don't have many version constraints. So by running chef client again, I hope everything will now work fine. At least it looks much better. Oh. So there's another thing that we need to get. Resource not found. Resource template zone file for is configured to notify resource service NSD, but service NSD cannot be found in the resource collection. Okay, that's interesting. Let's see where the NSD service is actually configured. It should be in the NSDX cookbook. And it's probably in master. Oh yeah, that was an issue that I wanted to fix but haven't. So here is service name, and service name is NSD by default. And so my test node over here needs to have this recipe as well. And what I wanted to do is factor out this service resource into a separate recipe that we can integrate more directly. But yeah, let's simply do another knife. Node edit. So after setting up these things, we need to run the recipe nsdx master. Hey Toolcars, welcome to the stream. Thanks for following. I really appreciate it. I hope you enjoy it. Yep, let's see how this works. lots of zone files getting created. And another failure. But we are making progress. So where's undefined method each? When writing the nsd-conf file, which will then in the end list all our zones. Hey Simon, welcome to the stream. We're making progress. Seems like a good time to join. Yeah, definitely. You've actually missed a bit, but it's still good. Good to join. Okay. What confuses me a bit is this undefined method each for chef delayed evaluator. I don't think I've seen that before. I assume it happens somewhere here. Yeah, it's probably this lazy call registry zones. Because registry zones will only have all the information when all the chef recipes have run. So we need to delay evaluating this until everything is defined, and only then we can define, or we can say what zones is. However, it looks like you can't call each on this. Strange. Why does it work in testing and not in production? So this is the template resource that triggered the error. And in this template, nsd master conf, we use add zones.each, and it passes in the lazy evaluator instead of the evaluated lazy evaluator, I guess. So it doesn't pass in the final value. That's strange. But let's see, chef lazy evaluation. In some cases, the value for a property cannot be known until the execution phase of a chef client run. Yeah. In this situation, using lazy evaluation of property values can be helpful. Instead of property being assigned a value, it may instead be assigned a code block. The syntax for using is as follows: attribute lazy and then a code block. Where lazy is used to tell the chef client to evaluate the contents of the code block later on in the resource evaluation process. For example, a resource that is not doing lazy evaluation just has this path and a literal value. And path lazy, some Ruby code, will be evaluated at a later stage. And at that stage, the Ruby code might also have, or might deliver a different value. And there's an example that is similar to what I'm doing here. It's used in the variables section. But this all reads as if I shouldn't have to take that into account inside the template. So I have zones colon lazy something, and that's exactly like this example here. And I think that's actually well tested as well with multiple zones. That's strange. It looks esoteric enough that I'm not sure if debugging it on stream makes a lot of sense, but I'll give it a try. First, let's see how we actually test this. We do have oh, look at that, we only have a single databag file for as testing data, and I guess we should have a second one as well. So we're not actually testing if we have multiple databag items here for multiple zones, and I'm just afraid this will quickly show us where it breaks. Okay, not as well tested as I claimed. So this is closed. Okay, so we can simply go ahead and create another issue. SDX breaks for multiple databag items. Cookbook sets up DNS master for multiple zones described by databag items. Chef run breaks instead. How to reproduce run chef with multiple DNS databag items. Zones. Label is bug and NSDX. I'll assign myself submit no issue 229. Hey F4 H4M. Add all quality on your stream. My internet speed is shit. Oh, you mean I should downsample the stream? That's an interesting idea. I haven't thought of that, but I'll definitely consider it. I wanted to try something like restream.io anyway. Yeah, it shows that I'm spoiled with bandwidth. I'm sorry that that it doesn't work with your bandwidth, and I'll take a look at resolving this. Okay. So this won't work if I don't add -b to git checkout. And now we can go ahead and maybe just, oh, well, why not just copy it? So let's simply do test integration data bags dnsexample.com to test integration data bags DNS foo.com.json. So the ID should be foo_com, domain name of course foo.com. Let's change these values as well. 3, 4, 5, 6, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let's change the CNAME any. We'll use MX and point it to mail. So now we have 2 data bag items. And running knife tests. Oh no, that's it's not knife. Anyway, I wanted to run rake test integration, but I'll start with kitchen converge because I'm hoping that it will actually break and show that we have some kind of an error in there. That's why it's good to have a testing environment for chef cookbooks. Not only the integration test environment I'm using at the moment, but also actual nodes that you can use to run a chef recipe, and that will give you a more realistic feedback on how your cookbook is behaving. Now comes the interesting part that actually runs the data bag recipe. Hey, lurking from afar, welcome to the stream. Appreciate to have you here. How's your company doing? Do all 4 of you work full-time? Yes, we do. We're doing great, actually. Pretty busy, but the good kind of busy. And yeah, all 4 of us are basically full-time employees. Okay, it actually worked. That's disappointing. So that's the part that's breaking in production here, having the nsd.conf with two zone files. Okay, that'll be interesting to debug. I guess the reason is that we have something in our production data that I didn't anticipate when I wrote this recipe. And just as the strings for MX preference break something in the internal business logic. Unfortunately, this will take a bit of back and forth between my actual testing machine and the cookbook. I might even have to insert a few debugging statements into the recipe to find out where it actually breaks, or because what's the reason that it breaks. And I'm afraid that will exceed the time I have today. Good thing that I actually decided to test it on a real machine, though. So, lurking from afar, you seem to know my company, and may I ask if we have already met? Okay. Let me think how to go, where to go from here. I could do something radical and simply copy over our actual production data bag and run the tests with these. We have not, just visiting for the first time. Oh, so you just looked up my company. Yeah. So we are a small bootstrap company, so that's why we've been growing very slowly. However, with things like this, with all the automation we have, we do manage quite well with just a small team, even though we are running a few hundred servers for our managed hosting platform. But it's enough work to actually warrant paying people full time. Yeah, I guess I will try this at a later time, probably tomorrow, and see if my tests run if I use our original databag item files. Which I'm not going to commit to the repository, of course, but it'll make things easier instead of bouncing to the testing machine and back to the repository and again and again. Cybersecurity student at the moment. Interesting topic. I've been programming for a long while. Yeah, I guess you should have a bit of experience if you are into cybersecurity. I wouldn't know how to do security without having a good amount of experience how things work behind the scenes. But cybersecurity is an interesting topic more than ever at the moment. Where do you study? Let me look at the code that builds up this registry thing. We actually use run state, okay. Colorado. Okay. A lot of my peers don't have much to any outside of Perl and C. Well, C is a good thing to know because it's basically the language buffer overflows are written in, yeah, isn't it? Uh, and Perl is a nice thing to know as well. I did years and years of Perl programming. I actually did Perl training for my job. Traveled around to training centers and gave Perl programming courses. But anyway, yeah, I guess it's depends on how you define cybersecurity. If you, of course, you can simply use tools, scanners, and stuff. Uh, However, if things get interesting with zero-day exploits and things like that, I guess you should have a bit of a grasp what that's about. I currently do most things with Perl or tools. Yeah, makes sense. And just to put it in the context of my stream here, if you are familiar with Perl, switching to Ruby will not be too hard, and it'll enable you to do a lot more things. While CPAN provides you with plenty of stuff, I think that Ruby has replaced Perl in many ways over time, or it will more and more replace Perl. At least for me, it has, because I can do the same things that I liked about Perl. However, I can do them in a more sensible syntax, and things are a bit easier to understand if you read Ruby code. Ruby is a great language if you want to prototype quickly and build better. Yeah, definitely. That's my favorite language to build in, or JavaScript. That's an area that is still uncharted for me. I haven't done any serious coding in JavaScript. But from the look of things, I should get into JavaScript one day, because even locally, my Mac apps start using JavaScript for automation and stuff. So it'll be certainly worthwhile to get myself into this. All right, folks. So I guess I won't be able to do much of significance over the last quarter hour. I guess I'll simply call it for today. And I'll try to get to the reason why my testing machine fails, and if we're lucky, I'll be able to tell you where the problem was on my stream on Thursday. Same time as today. I hope I'll see you then. And if there is anything you'd like to add, simply go to my GitHub repository here, github.com/Jeeves/DevOps with a 0 /issues. You'll find my agenda issues, especially the one for today. And if there's anything you'd like to add, you can either add it to the chat. I'll be in there for a few more minutes, and or you could simply add a comment to today's agenda, and I'm looking forward to see what you've got to say. So until Thursday, make sure to follow my stream so you get a notification when I go online on Thursday. And thanks for watching. Cheers.